The music industry works in silence. The best way to erase a song isn't to ban it, it's to bury it. Strip it from playlists. Keep it off the airwaves. Make sure only the right ears ever hear it. Breakdown at Creation is one of those songs. It shouldn't have survived, but it did. Why? Because the real ones know. Because a message this deep can't be silenced forever. And tonight, well, we're decoding it.
Okay, but also, the track slaps. And let's be real, it knows exactly what it's doing. Before we get into the conspiracy theories, can we just appreciate that?
But that is the nature of myth. Truth must be wrapped in beauty if it is to survive.
Exactly. And now we find the truth on this episode of Shifting Awake.
I'm Professor Orion Kale, Senior Fellow of Comparative Mythology at Eldermore University.
I'm Dr. Evelyn Hartman, psychologist and occasional voice of reason.
And I'm Vincent Vex Langley, truth seeker, system disruptor, and the only one here willing to tell you what's really going on.
And I'm Steph Parker, music journalist for the Bay Beat at Southside Bay Community College, here to remind everyone that sometimes a song just hits you right. You know?
Tonight, we're covering the William Is song Breakdown at Creation, a song filled with cryptic imagery, cosmic fractures, and buried messages.
And some very suggestive lyrics, let's be real.
We're not getting into that yet.
Let's begin.
Okay, Breakdown at Creation. Let's do this.
All right, let's start with the first verse. William opens with, "There are about a million ways to talk about the rain, but when you're feeling wet, I know that you want to do it again. Now rain, water." In mythology, water is one of the oldest and deepest symbols. It represents the subconscious or the unknown. When it appears in dreams, it can mean emotional depths or represent purification. So, if we frame this first line through that lens, William could be acknowledging that we have a million ways to describe what happens when we're submerged in our emotions, but that doesn't change the fact that we're still feeling it. Was it Campbell that said the psychotic drowns in the same waters in which the mystic swims? That might be relevant here.
Okay. Overlooking the sex much? You guys are talking about subconscious symbolism, but come on. He literally says, when you're feeling wet, I know that you want to do it again. What else could that mean?
Steph, it's entirely possible for something to be both. Water is a sexual symbol too. Fertility, creation, desire. Aphrodite, the Greek goddess of sexual love and beauty, was literally born from sea foam. But I think what's interesting is that if you look at this line metaphorically and literally, it still works.
And if we think about personal transformation, this could also represent the loss of control before catharsis. Before we reach our core self, we have to dissolve, or as William suggests, break down. That process is disorienting. We suffer a psychological death of sorts, and suddenly, we don't know who we are anymore. That's the nature of transformation. It's painful, but it's also irresistible.
Yeah, and what's interesting, what's dangerous is that the industry, society, doesn't want us to dissolve. They need us docile, predictable. Why? Because the moment you start peeling back the layers, the moment you start seeing what's really underneath, you realize nothing is what it seems. That's when the whole system crumbles. That's why they keep us distracted, pushing sugar, TikToks, 5G mind control, and whatever's in the goddamn tap water. But this song, it's a virus in the system. It's telling you to wake up. It's about stripping away the illusion, the false self, so you can actually see what's behind the curtain. And that's why they buried it. They don't want people asking questions. They don't want you realizing your entire life has been scripted like a goddamn Truman Show episode.
Wow. Okay. So the reason people don't know about William isn't because he has a shitty publicist or the fact that most indie music never gets heard. It's actually because of the fluoride in our water. Got it. Totally checks out. And this song specifically is the one that's going to blow the whole thing wide open. It's this 3-minute track from an artist nobody's heard of. Super logical. Vex, I love you, but I swear to God, you could look at an unplugged microwave and find evidence of mind control. All right, let's keep going. What's next, Orion?
Okay, guys, why don't we move to the chorus where William sings, "All equations break down at creation."
You think reality is stable? You think science has this all figured out? No. They just want you to believe that, because if people knew the truth, that logic, time, and everything collapses when something truly new emerges, society would lose its goddamn mind. But more importantly, Bezos, that fucking Musk moron, and all the other billionaires who run this whole machine would lose their grip. They don't fear chaos, they fear losing control. Because once people realize the basic rules don't apply, the whole damn pyramid starts crumbling. and they can't have that.
Well, okay, switching gears here. I'm no physicist, but if I recall correctly, when you extrapolate physics equations backward to the moment of the Big Bang, the equations just stop working. Everything breaks down in creation, past, and future. Maybe that's more of what William had in mind.
Right. There's a point where our current understanding of the universe just doesn't apply anymore, which is a kind of beautiful mystery.
Exactly. Even science admits it. Reality itself is unstable.
Or, hear me out. Maybe William just liked the way equations breaking down sounded in a chorus. Not everything is a hidden message from the universe. Sometimes musicians just put words together because they flow. But yeah, sure, let's keep going before Vex starts explaining how this song is actually an ancient alien transmission.
ET aside, it does raise an interesting question. If our most fundamental laws collapse at creation, what else might be hidden beyond that point? Or it points forward as we evolve as a species?
Looks like somebody just woke up. Now you're asking the right questions.
Oh no, we're losing Orion to the conspiracy side.
Simply keeping an open mind, Steph.
Which brings us to the verse William sings in French.
This is where it gets serious.
Je sais qu'il y a deux sortes de mort et qu'une n'est pas mauvais.
Which means, I know that there are two kinds of death, and one is not bad.
Now this is intriguing. Many traditions recognize two forms of death. One physical, one symbolic. The idea that you can die and be reborn as something new isn't just poetic. It's deeply rooted in spiritual traditions across the world. The Aztecs, for example, believed in a form of spiritual death, a complete dissolution of the self before being reborn into wisdom. In the Amazon, the Shipibo-Kanebo people undergo powerful ayahuasca ceremonies, where initiates often experience a symbolic death, shedding their past identity to emerge as something transformed. This idea transcends cultures because it's universal. Sometimes you have to completely break apart before you can become whole again.
Of course. This shedding an old self to make way for a new one is the death of the ego. It's painful, but it's necessary. Many spiritual traditions describe this as ego dissolution, losing the constructed self so something more authentic can emerge. In Jungian psychology, this would be the integration of the shadow self.
Or he's talking about erasure, a different kind of death, the kind where you disappear overnight and nobody asks questions. And listen, I heard from a source I'm not about to name that William is safe, relaxing in Buenos Aires. But you didn't hear that from me.
Yeah, totally. Vex. So, William's not just an artist, he's an international fugitive now, living in some shadowy safe house south of the equator, waiting for the signal to drop the one song that's going to bring down the entire system. Maybe this is just about leaving the past behind, not escaping some underground government hit squad. You may be crazy, Vex, but I do agree it's super obvious. This song is not simply pop wallpaper.
All right, buckle up, because this is where things get interesting. You ever notice how some songs just disappear? How certain artists never get the recognition they deserve? Well, my friends, that's not an accident. Welcome to the Suppression Files segment of Shifting Awake, where we expose exactly why artists like William Is and tracks like Breakdown at Creation are being buried.
Okay, before we get too deep into the weeds, let's just address the obvious. Most indie artists struggle to get noticed. That's just how the algorithm works. More exposure means more plays, and unless you've got a major label bankrolling your promotion,
No. That's what they want you to think, Orion. This isn't just some indie artist struggling story. This is active suppression. They bury songs like this.
So, just to clarify, William isn't under the radar because he's an indie artist without label backing, but because the powers that be are terrified of his music. Got it. Makes total sense.
Laugh all you want, but ask yourself this. Why does absolute trash get pushed to the top while something like Breakdown at Creation gets lost in the void? If you make brain-dead pop with no meaning, algorithm boost. If you make music that makes people think, shadow ban. That's not an accident.
Vex. The song is sitting right there on Spotify. I just found it in like 2 seconds.
Vex? Labels pay for placement. It's just money. There's no grand conspiracy.
Then explain this. Why did William use the golden ratio and the digital delay at the start of this song? Why would he do that, Orion?
I mean, musicians have used the golden ratio for centuries. It's a naturally balanced...
You think it's a coincidence that William encoded a universal pattern into his song? The same ratio that appears in galaxies, in hurricanes, in DNA, and now, right here in Breakdown at Creation? No way.
Artists have incorporated the golden ratio into their work for ages. Debussy, Bartok,
Yeah, and they were onto something. What if this delay isn't just a musical choice? What if it's an auditory activation key? What if it's like literally rewiring your perception?
Oh God, here it comes. Yet another TED Talk on Fibonacci spirals.
Steph, they don't want you listening to this because it shifts you. It disrupts the synapses. That's why it's suppressed. That's why you can't find it trending. The moment people wake up, the whole system crumbles.
It just didn't wind up on a big playlist.
Bex, I hate to break it to you, but maybe William just thought the ratio sounded cool.
You'll see, Steph. One day you'll wake up and breakdown at creation will just be gone.
Oh no, not a song getting mysteriously removed from a streaming platform. That's never happened before.
All right, let's shift gears before Vex starts tracking William's movements on Google Earth. Let's talk about the production of Breakdown at Creation. So, from a pure production standpoint, Breakdown at Creation has some really interesting sonic choices. The layering of synths, the panning effects, the killer drums. It all contributes to this floating, otherworldly feeling. But I want to talk about something specific, the binaural beats that William originally included in the bass.
Oh, you mean the ones he admitted to in that interview in 2023? The one they pulled from the website 3 days after it went live? Yeah, those.
Vex. William once mentioned in an interview that he experimented with binaural beats, specifically alpha waves, before deciding to remove them in the final mix. It's a fascinating choice.
Fascinating choice? Or did he realize what he was unleashing and get forced to take them out? Huge difference.
Or maybe he just thought they didn't fit the song, Vex. Not everything is a government psyop.
And not just any binaural beats, alpha waves. Do you know what that does to your brain, Orion? Do you?
Binaural beats are a real phenomenon, Vex. They can entrain your brainwaves slightly, helping induce relaxation or focus. But they're not some kind of magic frequency that unlocks the mind.
No. They are literally tuning your consciousness. Alpha waves are linked to heightened perception. This was designed to change you, to open your mind. And guess what? He took them out. Why? We don't know. But what if he realized something about them? Something even he didn't want to unleash.
Oh no, not the binaural beats. Anything but the binaural beats.
Or maybe William just decided they didn't fit with the final mix. Binaural beats aren't illegal, Vex.
Or maybe he heard something in them that the rest of us weren't ready for.
All right, moving on. Now that we've peeled back some of the layers, let's hear the song itself. You've heard the theories, the symbolism, the controversy. Now experience Breakdown at Creation the way it was meant to be heard.
Sit back, open your mind, let the frequencies take you somewhere you've never been before. This is not just music, this is a transmission.
Or it's just a total banger, but sure, let's go with that.
And here it is. Breakdown at Creation by William Is.
We're sorry. This content is not available in your region.